The gospel text of today is taken from the Gospel of Matthew chapter 21 verses 33 to 43 and verses 45 to 46. In these verses, Jesus tells a parable. And the root of the parable is, the main point of the parable is that whatever has been given to us has been given in trust. And we must realize this. He speaks about a man who had a vineyard, who leased it out to tenants so that they could till that vineyard. And the tenants took charge of the vineyard and began to make produce on it. Because of the agreement that had been made in advance, the owner sends his servants to collect his share of the produce. However, the tenants will not listen. The tenants will not give. The tenants begin to act as if they own the vineyard. And they beat the tenants. They throw the tenants out. They even kill those servants. The owner is surprised because this agreement had been made in advance. So he sends more servants, thinking that the earlier servants had been misunderstood. The tenants deal in the same way with the servants. They do what they did to the earlier servants, and they even harsher now with these servants. The owner is even more surprised and really is at his wit's end about what to do. Now the owner has a son, and it is obvious that the son will be the heir of that vineyard. And so the owner sends his son. The moment the tenants see the son, they realize that now all that they want is theirs because this is the heir. And if the heir is killed, then there will be no one else but them who can take over the vineyard. And so they kill the son and throw him out of the vineyard. The reference is very clearly to the prophets who had been sent by God and who were treated shamefully. The reference is to the second group of prophets who were sent by God and treated in the same way as the former group, shamefully. And then in the fullness of time, God was at his wit's end and did not know what to do. But God had a son. And God sent his son. Whether the former prophets, whether the latter prophets, whether the son who was sent, all came with the same message. And the message was that God wanted to reconcile all people to himself. God wanted us to realize that we were not owners but tenants. God wanted us to realize that our lives here on earth was a short life. 60, 70, 90, 95 years. That is all. For God, there is no time. But for us, these years given to us, no matter how many years they might be, must be lived as if we were tenants, must be lived entirely and fully, must be lived by tilling the land and giving God, which means giving others, their share of the produce. However, as tenants in the parable of today, as those who have gone before us, we behave in the same manner. And our response, unfortunately, on the three levels, that is, our response to each other, remains at the level of selfishness. We try to accumulate, we try to gather, we try to gain as much as we can for ourselves without often even a thought about another. Our needs are all that matter to us. And no matter how much we have, it sometimes is never enough, and we want to have and have and have more. Our relationship with nature, which has led to the destruction, so much so that everyone, everywhere is now talking about ecology, is now talking about the environment and how we can save our world. Why have we let it come to such a state? We have let it come to such a state because of the selfishness of a few. When we cut trees, when we waste water, when we waste other natural resources which the Lord in His generosity has given us as tenants, then we are behaving like the tenants of the parable and not giving to God His produce. And the third, the consequence therefore, is our relationship with God. We have been such that we are not able to relate with God as we ought to. We like to hide from God. We think that God is waiting to punish us. We think that God is waiting to take us to task. Our relationship with God will obviously be warped because of the fact that our relationship with each other and our relationship with this world given to us in trust is warped. Will you better your relationship with another in one way today? Will you better your relationship with the world in one way today, so that your relationship with God can also be better?